is Gabriela on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. We have a real treat for you just around the corner, and that is Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. Jeff is the owner of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and he will be coming to you weekly to teach you more about empowered living. Now, let's join Jeff already in the studio.
Hello and welcome. This is Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and this is Empowered Living. Now today, we're going to do something I've never done before. We're going to have a guest in the studio. We're going to do an interview, and our guest today is Lauren Hope. Now, Lauren is the founder of Good Girl Chronicles. She's a blogger. She's an advocate. She's a peer recovery specialist, and she has an incredible story. Thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, so you've got quite a story, and in these days, we see so many people who have taken their own lives recently. You know, we just think of Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain just in the past couple of months, and there's so many other, Robin Williams, and those are just the high-profile ones. And so many of us know many other people who have either effectively done that or tried to on their own level. And you've got a story. You started as a reporter for Wavy TV 10, and then ended up hitting some difficulties and ended up at a point with an attempted suicide, but now have had quite a road to recovery and making a huge difference and speaking out for others who may not know how to speak out for themselves. And so we can't wait to hear your story and the steps that have led you out that hopefully can be reproduced in the lives of anybody who may be listening who's struggling with this, or somebody that they know. And they just don't quite know how to reach out and help. So I would love if you would share your story today with our guests.
Well, that's right, Jeff. 4 years ago, I seemingly was on top of the world. I was a reporter for Wavy News 10. I owned a condo before 30. I had this amazingly beautiful boyfriend. I was in the best shape of my life. However, I was struggling with major depression and anxiety, and I didn't ever feel safe enough to share that with anyone, not my friends. I even struggled telling my therapist about it, and my family just, to protect me, told me to keep those things a secret. And I know that they meant well, but in telling me to do that, it led to a lot of shame. And I felt very weak that I had this thing that I couldn't tell anybody about. I was convinced that I was the only person in the world struggling with it. And that shame led me to not being compliant with my meds, or going to therapy or being active in treatment. And so, in 2014, I had a lot of life stressors. I was in a relationship, but the man that I really loved didn't love me. I was seeing a lot of trauma in the news field. I don't think people think about this. News reporters see a lot of traumatic events. I was the weekend and night reporter, so I was reporting to shootings, murders, rapes. You see people at their worst, and I didn't know how to process that. So I'd come home and just internalize it. And I know now that I experienced some PTSD from that. In news, like, there is no day or two of debriefing or anything like that. After you do a murder, like the next day, sometimes hours later, you're putting a camera in some grieving mother's face.
Wow.
And it broke me. And so 2014, I attempted suicide, and just so dark. It's such a dark place. And you'll often hear a lot of people say that when they make an attempt, it's not about dying, it's about escaping the pain. I felt broken, alone, worthless, fat, unloved, and I had this negative self-tape all day long. And depression is like living under a rain cloud. And even though the world is sunny outside of that rain cloud, all you can see is the rain in the cloud. So that clouds how people talk to you. You're convinced that they're thinking the worst of you, what you think about yourself. And when I survived my attempt, I went to a psych hospital in Virginia Beach. I wish so much that I could tell you that that was the fix. But when I got out, I didn't really have a treatment plan for dealing with what led me to that attempt. And I took FMLA leave, but I don't think a lot of people know that you can take family medical leave for mental health. But still, I wasn't dealing with my mental illness. And I went back to work 5 days after my 30th birthday. And I remember being at my desk and my hands trembling, shaking, thinking, how am I going to get through this day? I'm going to fail. Like, I can't do this. This used to be a job that was second nature to me. And all I could think of was get out, just get out. And so I walked into my news director's office and I said, listen, I cannot do this anymore. So I left Wavy July 9th and in 2014. And then my life just fell apart. It just fell apart. I know now that I defined myself by that job. So I was already severely depressed. So when I left the job, I felt like I had nothing to live for. I got a little rinky-dink retail job where people would come in and laugh and point at me, which was so degrading. And then for close to 2 years, I lived in a really dark, depressive episode. It was literally like being The Walking Dead. After a while, I couldn't work. I would just sit at home all day and eat and sleep. And I cut off all of my friends. Then I started pulling my hair out at the root just to feel something because I felt so numb. I developed this terrible, debilitating social anxiety where I couldn't leave the house at all. And it all came to a head. I think this is when my parents knew that it was bad. Food was the only thing that was comforting me in my depression. That's it. I was like, food and YouTube. And it was a funny
what a combination.
So December 2015, it was my stepfather's birthday, and they were going to a really nice fancy restaurant in Norfolk, which I normally love. And I was making every excuse for why I couldn't go because I was terrified to leave the house. So my mother goes to buy me makeup. She goes to buy me clothes. And I literally broke down crying hysterical at the thought of leaving the house.
Wow.
And they were like, oh, wow, this is really intense. And so then they told me, listen, like, we've watched you just kind of your whole life just fall apart over these last 2 years. You need to move in with us and we're going to help you get your life back. And another interesting thing that happened is that I started taking a new medication, an antidepressant. And but it took a while for it to like really grab hold of me. The depression, the antidepressants like pushed away the rain cloud basically. And then it was like, oh, well, life isn't that bad. But at that point, I had made a mess of my life. I was 100 pounds overweight. My boyfriend, couldn't deal, so he left. And then I realized, holy smokes, I've walked away from my television career. I just didn't, even though I felt better, I was like, I don't have any reason to live. I've messed everything up. And I remember it was December 2015. I was in my parents' man cave. Like, again, TV was the only thing soothing me. And I was watching this A&E special on McDreamy. And this is how vivid that memory is for me. And I felt something say to me, turn off the television. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm hearing auditory hallucinations. But then I thought to myself, it wasn't like I could hear it. It's like the stirring in my soul. And I thought, am I having one of those experiences where God is speaking to me? Is this what it feels like? And so I remember responding back saying, God, I can't do this anymore. Like just saying like, I'd be really okay if I went to sleep and you made it so I didn't wake up. And I remember them saying, listen, I need you to get up today. And I said, what is there to get up from? Do you see what I've done in my life? God, it's bad. There's no coming back from this. He said, listen, Lauren, I have never promised any of my children that they will have a life without strife. We live in a broken world. You don't get that. But I promise all of my children that I will give them the strength to endure it. I'm going to help you endure. But first, Lauren, I need you to get up. And I remember just crying for this life that I had lost and letting it fall away. And he's like, I not only need you to get up for yourself, but there's a higher calling for you. When you get up and you persevere through this, it's going to give me so much glory because I'm going to tell you that so many of my children are suffering in silence with this very same thing. And when I free you, it's going to free so many other people. I just felt that in my spirit. So, okay, he's going to give me the strength to endure it. So at first it was, I'm going to comb my hair today. I'm going to take a shower today. I'm going to call a friend today. And then, early 2016, I was watching this Joyce Meyer's special, and she referenced 1 Peter 5:8. And the part of that scripture that stuck with me was that the world is suffering. And I felt like, and God said, people need to know why you left Waving News 10. They need to know, like, it's time. And so I wrote this blog, my Good Girl Chronicles blog, and I had been offline for 2 years, and I didn't think anyone would care. Like, within 24 hours, it's like bing, 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 all of these notifications. Viewers who were legitimately concerned about what happened, viewers who were sharing with me their own mental health struggles, people they had lost to suicide, popular girls in high school who never talked to me, were sending me their stories. And I thought, God, is this what you meant? Is this what you meant? It was so revealing to me that, yes, there are so many of God's children struggling with mental illness, depression, suicidal ideation. And just because I dared to speak, they felt free enough to share their truth too, or it made them comfortable in their diagnosis. And that was the first moment I realized my new purpose was to share my story of living through this, to inspire other people to make peace with it and to live through it. I did not realize the wilderness that God would take me through, because the more I shared my story, the angrier my parents became. They're very conservative people. You know, they're part of this Black culture that believes what happens in this house stays in this house. We don't talk about mental illness, that type of thing. And it caused a lot of friction in our family, to the point where they pretty much put me out in May of 2016. And it just fractured our family. And I know that a big catalyst was because I was blogging about it. I was going to churches, and I have enough grace for my family to understand that I feel like my parents thought it was a reflection on them. That the more that I talked about, you know, my depression, some childhood trauma, they felt like it reflected on them negatively. And I get that, but it was my story to tell, you know, not theirs. And so I was homeless for an entire year. I slept in the backseat of my Beetle, some nights in the Walmart parking lot. I hotel hopped when I got money. But here's the beautiful thing. Because I dared to be transparent about everything that I had lost, about being homeless, people showed up. I'd post on Facebook like, this is what it looks like to be homeless. This is how God has humbled me in my homelessness. People would donate money to my GoFundMe. For 2016 to about 2017, I survived off $4,000 of GoFundMe donations from viewers, from strangers. And I felt like, again, that was God feeding me in the wilderness. I know that homelessness could have broken my spirit if I did not know who God was. A friend of mine from Wavy, who left the TV business to go into ministry, encouraged me to read the Bible. He said to read the book of Colossians. And for whatever reason, I couldn't connect with that book. He says, read the book of John. You're going to love it. And I read this amazing book. And there's a section in there about the Samaritan woman, the woman at the well, who I really identify with. And the thing that gets me is that she came into a barren place, so broken, had made so many mistakes. I mean, the world thought the worst of her. And Jesus said, it doesn't matter who you were before you came to this well. I love you anyway. And I am going to give you an everlasting water that never runs dry. Never. And she's like, that makes no sense. That's how earthly, that doesn't connect in my brain. And that is what God's love felt like. The brokenness of your family abandoning